There are people who live with constant anxiety, not because they expect something terrible to happen, but because they are deeply afraid of disappointing someone. They replay conversations after they end. They wonder if their tone was wrong. They worry they said too much or not enough. They feel a wave of guilt after setting even the smallest boundary. If this sounds familiar, it is important to say this clearly. This is not a personality flaw. It is not weakness. It is not a lack of confidence. It is a nervous system pattern built around safety. People pleasing is often mistaken for kindness, generosity, or being easygoing. But for many people, it is not a choice. It is a survival strategy that formed in environments where emotional safety was unpredictable. Some people grew up in homes where anger felt explosive. Some learned that love could be withdrawn without warning. Some were praised only when they were helpful, quiet, or agreeable. Some were punished for expressing needs or emotions. When a nervous system grows up in those conditions, it adapts. It learns to scan others constantly. It learns to anticipate moods. It learns to keep the peace at all costs. Over time, this becomes automatic. The body feels responsible for everyone else's comfort. The mind believes conflict equals danger. The heart learns that being needed is safer than being authentic. This is where guilt enters the picture. Not guilt for doing something wrong, but guilt for simply existing with needs. Guilt for resting, guilt for saying no, guilt for asking for space, guilt for wanting something different than what others want. This kind of guilt is not about values. It is about fear. And the fear underneath it is often very simple. If someone is mad at me, something bad will happen. That belief may not be conscious, but the body responds as if it is true. The chest tightens, the stomach drops, the mind rushes to fix, explain, apologize, or overfunction. People pleasing is not about wanting everyone to like you. It is about wanting everyone to be calm, because calm feels safe. When someone else is upset, even if it has nothing to do with you, your nervous system may go into high alert. You may feel responsible for fixing it. You may feel an urgent need to smooth things over. And when you cannot fix it, the anxiety grows. This is often when people begin to abandon themselves. They agree to things they do not want to do. They stay quiet when something hurts. They minimize their own feelings. They tell themselves it is not that bad. On the outside, they look accommodating. On the inside, they feel resentful, exhausted, and invisible. Over time, people-pleasing creates a split. There is the version of you that others see, helpful, kind, reliable. And there is the version of you that carries the resentment, grief, and unmet needs. That split is painful, because no matter how much you give, it never feels like enough. The goalposts keep moving, the anxiety never fully settles, and the guilt never truly goes away. Many people who struggle with people-pleasing also struggle with decision-making. Even small choices can feel overwhelming. What if this upsets someone? What if I choose wrong? What if I regret it? They may also struggle with anger, not outward anger, but quiet, internal anger that has nowhere to go. Anger that turns into headaches, tension, burnout, or emotional numbness, because anger was never allowed, because anger felt dangerous, because anger threatened connection, so it was buried. But buried emotions do not disappear. They show up in other ways. Chronic anxiety, difficulty sleeping, people feeling drained after social interactions, feeling unseen, even in close relationships. One of the most painful parts of people-pleasing is the belief that boundaries are selfish. If you grew up learning that love was conditional, boundaries may feel like rejection. Saying no may feel like abandonment. Choosing yourself may feel like betrayal. But boundaries are not punishment. Boundaries are information. They tell others where you end and where they begin. They protect your energy. They make relationships sustainable. Without boundaries, resentment grows, and resentment slowly erodes connection. It is also important to say this. People-pleasing does not actually prevent conflict. It delays it. Because when needs are ignored long enough, they eventually surface, often in moments of exhaustion or emotional overload. That can lead to sudden shutdowns, outbursts, or withdrawal that feel confusing to both you and others. The irony is that people-pleasing often creates the very disconnection it was meant to avoid. Healing this pattern does not start with forcing yourself to stop caring what people think. That approach often fails because it ignores the role of the nervous system. This is not about willpower, it is about safety. The nervous system needs to learn, slowly and gently, that it is safe to have needs, that it is safe to disappoint people sometimes, that it is safe to tolerate discomfort without immediately fixing it. This work is slow, and that is okay. It often starts with awareness, noticing when guilt shows up, noticing the urge to explain or over-justify, noticing the body sensations that arise when you consider saying no. Instead of pushing those feelings away, it can help to pause, to breathe, to ground, to remind yourself that discomfort does not equal danger. A helpful reframe is this: someone being upset does not mean you did something wrong. People are allowed to have feelings, including disappointment, including frustration, including anger. You are not responsible for managing emotions that are not yours. Another important piece of this work is learning to separate guilt from values. Healthy guilt comes from acting against your values. Toxic guilt comes from acting in alignment with your needs. If you feel guilty after setting a boundary, that does not mean the boundary was wrong. It often means the nervous system is reacting to unfamiliar territory. Growth often feels like anxiety before it feels like relief. Small boundaries are often the safest place to start. Not big confrontations, not dramatic declarations, but quiet, simple limits. I cannot do that today. I need some time to think about it. That does not work for me right now. You do not need to explain. You do not need to convince. You do not need to justify. And if guilt rises, that does not mean you need to take the boundary back. It means your nervous system is learning something new. Another piece of healing is grieving. Grieving the version of yourself that learned to earn love through compliance. Grieving the needs that went unmet. Grieving the safety you did not have when you needed it most. That grief can feel heavy, but it is also a sign of self-compassion growing. It is also important to talk about relationships. People-pleasing often attracts people who benefit from it, not always intentionally, but consistently. When you begin to set boundaries, some relationships may change. Some people will adjust, some will resist, some may leave. That can be painful, but it is also revealing. Relationships that require you to abandon yourself in order to be loved are not safe relationships. Healthy relationships allow space for disagreement, limits, and individuality. They do not require constant self-sacrifice. If you are listening to this and realizing how deeply this pattern runs, it is okay to take this slowly. You do not need to fix everything today. You do not need to become a different person. This is not about becoming less caring. It is about caring for yourself too. Kindness that costs you your well-being is not sustainable. Real compassion includes you. As you practice this, there may be moments where anxiety spikes, where guilt feels overwhelming, where the urge to go back to old patterns is strong. That does not mean you are failing. It means you are learning. Healing people-pleasing is not about never feeling guilt again. It is about learning to tolerate guilt without letting it control your choices. It is about choosing alignment over approval, safety over silence, truth over comfort. And most of all, it is about rebuilding trust with yourself. Trust that your needs matter. Trust that you can survive discomfort. Trust that you do not need to earn your right to exist. If you have spent your life making yourself smaller so others could feel comfortable, you are not broken. You adapted. And now you get to choose something different at your own pace, in your own way. If this resonated with you, you are not alone. Many people carry this quietly, believing it is just who they are. But patterns can change. Nervous systems can learn safety, and guilt does not have to run your life. If this was helpful, you are welcome to like and subscribe, so more conversations like this can reach the people who need them. And if you feel comfortable, you can share your thoughts in the comments. Sometimes naming these patterns out loud is the first step toward healing.